That's why we had Jim come. Jim was one of the, y'all, that might not sound like a big deal, but with Open Table, since we started this in 2010, and even those of us who were doing this before then, we have been pushing for Metro to do more in the winter months. It's only private shelters that have done anything when it's freezing, and people are dying. So we've been pushing for this for over 7 years, and it's taken relationships and counsel to get it done, and it's taken people that have gone out with us. So when you're doing stuff in your neighborhood and you want your council member there, invite them. We invited Jim and he was crazy enough to come. So it was awesome. Thank you for sharing those things. I want to do a little power mapping for like 2 minutes before we have a break. Who are the other key players? We have only talked about, I'm thinking like in Nashville, who are the other key political players that we need to think about that it will affect legislation, bills, and policy?
Boards and commissions.
Boards and commissions. So Metro, boards, and commissions. What else?
Judges. District attorneys.
Okay. Judges, DA's office. Who else?
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that. Okay, what else?
Lobbyists.
Yes, definitely lobbyists. And Metro can have lobbyists. Outside developers can have lobbyists. Interest groups can have lobbyists. Who else? Wait, I heard a lot. I heard churches, I believe, like faith communities. Okay, what else?
Major political parties.
Yeah.
What about HUD?
MDHA, did I hear that? Do y'all know what MDHA is? It's a Metro Development and Housing Agency. It's like our development and housing hub. Private groups, private developers, private contractors. What?
Universities and education.
Yeah, totally.
Press.
Groups, press.
Law enforcement.
Sure. And especially the Fraternal Order of Police, who actually have a very strong lobbying arm, both locally and nationally. Yep. Chief of police, all of them. So let's just lump that under law enforcement. Universities, colleges, what else? Hospitals, so those would go under the private groups, unless it's a metro, unless it's a public hospital. Tourism, so who specifically in tourism? Would it be one of the Metro boards and commissions, or would it be the private groups? Yeah, totally.
Like Realtors Association?
Yeah, the Realtors Association would be a private group. I've thrown some up here. We got most of them. I kind of put them in a little bit of a top power to like less powerful that I could think of in this. There is a homelessness commission. They don't have a lot of power. They are really wonderful people, but that's not where you go when you're trying to get stuff done. So I'm going to leave this up as we're taking our break. We also have key players in the advocacy community, and these are a few of them. These are some of the folks that are fighting on the ground in grassroots struggles, especially when it comes to housing and homelessness. They're touching our issues and other issues too. So we could name so many other on-the-ground groups that are powerhouses, but in different areas, we work with them. So if you need to know of somebody in a specific area, let us know. We'll hook you up. But a lot of these groups will be available on the last slide too, and you'll get all the slides in the next couple days when we send them out. For now, let's take a break. So in a few minutes, you all are going to be doing an activity where you actually communicate with the public or a council member or representative. And so listen up with these tips for communicating and see what we're missing here. When we are trying to communicate about the issues we care about, you're going to want to know that issue well. It's one of the reasons we provided y'all with the stat sheet on homelessness and housing, because we want y'all to have the tools to reach out to your council members and representatives. We need to know the stories, the faces. An issue without a face does not capture people's attention. But as advocates, there's a danger of advocating for people and using people's stories and faces and personal information without their permission. So we always protect confidentiality too, or change names when we're sharing those stories, okay? So there's a danger, but we need to be telling these stories to educate people. We also want to know who our target legislator or representative is. Is it somebody that's really moved, has a big family, goes to church all the time? You can do the like religion and justice kind of talking with them. Or is it somebody who's really hardcore about cost analysis, and that's the kind of way you want to frame it? Do some Googling, do some research on who you're reaching out to, see if you can figure out what's going to move them. Your argument will be more effective if you can tie it into their self-interest and to what they already care about. Speak to them where they are. Don't ask them to be someone else and take an argument that's not going to impact them. We need to be strategic with the kind of stories, stats, and numbers we share with different people. We want to be urgent about this matter. There is urgency around this winter bill. We have people die every year. We see the faces, see the stories. We can tell you the names of all the people that we know of who have had amputations. There's urgency. Try to communicate that. Be genuine in the urgency you communicate, because it affects people. And also, say there's a council member, especially maybe it's your council member, and you really, really, really disagree with them, or you start looking them up and you're like, oh my goodness, we have nothing in common, they're the complete opposite. Try to find the common ground and still maintain some kind of decor. Is that the right word? Decorum, thank you. And try to be polite when you're interacting with them and find that common ground that you have. Jim already said, if you forget to put your address on there, people aren't going to care, because you could be an out-of-town developer that's trying to sway their vote. Put your name, your address, and your number on there. You can find that information for your council members online, which is on your handout too. Another way to impact change and to try to get voices out on these issues is writing letters to the editor or op-eds. The letters to the editor are a little bit shorter, op-eds are a little bit longer, and you need to have some kind of expertise in the matter. We've got some examples of those in the back, because in a minute you're going to get the chance to either write a letter to the editor, an op-ed, or a letter to your council member. So I will talk about that in a minute, but be thinking about what you want to do. I am actually going to bring up now one of my other dear friends, Howard Allen, who has been doing homeless organizing for way longer than any of us in this room. I'm mostly positive. I actually met him with the Nashville Homeless Power Project a while back, like in 2006 or 7, and you're one of the co-founders of that. Howard has done a lot with us on the ground. He can tell you more about his story if he wants, but he has also written prolifically in the Tennessean lately. He's getting his ideas and his opinions out in the Tennessean with, like, we aren't doing anything. He is just making it happen. So I wanted him to come give y'all some tips on accessing and finding your voice and then using it to navigate these things. And if y'all have questions for him that are logistical or whatever, feel free to ask. But I am going to give it over to the expert for a few so he can share with y'all.
Hi, I'm Howard. I have a grassroots organization called the Nashville Homeless Underground, and I do a lot of things with Open Table. One of the things we do, this is one of the best days that we do together. It's a homeless memorial, and it's a platform because I have my brothers and sisters that have lost their lives on the street. Let me get my glasses out. I've been writing since 2005. But when you're able to write, you can have the advocacy, the lay of the land, navigating government, and when you practice, it makes you get a little bit better. Then you can have strategies for affecting change. I deal with the council members like Jim, and I speak to try to get a change. But when I write in the paper, I ask God to bless what I'm about to say on paper because I'm very spiritual. God's carrying me now. I live in a tent. I'm homeless right now. And a lot of things come to me from him and from my brothers and sisters that have died, you know, because they're in my soul. I live this, you know. One of the first things is that you can't be afraid. This is a we thing, and it's nothing wrong with writing and giving your opinion. And I write for people to let them know the other side. I write with radical love, you know. I write to make them think, oh, we didn't know this. You know, Lindsay said we've been fighting for several years to try to get people inside when it turns 32 degrees. We've been fighting a lot longer than that, you know. We need porta-johns. You know, I bring it to them to make them feel like really they're just stupid. Let me tell you something, really. We got a man that tweets a lot. He got to be president. Says, I got a lot of money, so I can do this. Well, I got no money, and I do a hell of a better job than he does. They can't sue me, they can't get anything, so I do it. When you're at the bottom, you can't go anywhere else but up. You know, the thing about writing is you need to come from your heart. God will give it to you. I live this. I'm from Nashville. I'm homegrown. I went to private school. I got 3 years of college. But a lot of times when you become homeless, they try to control you. We talked a little bit about that. And there's no way anybody sat in the third grade said, I'm going to grow up to become homeless. This is a hell, you know? So I write about it. I let them know I have a commission that I go to once a month. We get 3 minutes to talk. And it goes in one ear and out the other ear. But when I write in the newspaper, a lot of people can hear because I'm the education, where I'm educating not just the homeless community, but I'm educating you guys. Because a lot of things you don't know, like Metropolitan Development Housing Authority, it's not about building low-income housing. It's about development of the city. It's a big difference between affordable housing and low-income housing. So I try to push that policy. I try to change the policy of homelessness. When I hear 25 degrees, we got emergency shelters, something's wrong with that picture. And it's designed like that. Some of my ancestors, 450 years of slavery, and then you're at 725 now, something's wrong with that picture. Something's definitely wrong with that. So it's designed. And the only way we can change it is if people come together. And it's time to talk. It's time to say, hey, I voted you in office. I can vote you out. And it's amazing how when they're running for office, you can shake their hand. And then when they get in office, you can't even get a phone call back. But you can write in the paper and say what needs to be said. And it's other people that can be on the same level or the same pace that you are. And then when you see that person that's out, and we're not going to use Jim because Jim's cool, but that says something and say, hey, well, what about this? I wrote something, an op-ed, 4th of July. Some people have to see a change. I challenged the mayor to go to James Casey and stay a month with her husband in security, to live off the income that those people live off of for that month, and then to get some good recipes. Then I challenged her, we have a shower truck, to come and take a shower on a Monday night. Let people see this. Some people have to see it like Doubting Thomas. I got to see it. And then I said, instead of naming a day after a celebrity, let's have a day called Happy Speaking Day. That's where you speak to someone no matter who they are or where they come from. This is my home city. That's what we were known for, speaking and feeding. Now we don't have that. I talk about it, I haven't written it yet, but this is a millennium city, a police city, and a tourist city. And it's pushing people like me and my brothers and sisters out. And when I talk to them, and I still talk to them, I talk to them in my dreams, they give me inspiration, and I'm not afraid to write or to tell what needs to be said. I had a pretty rough week. I'm going to read you a little something, and this just came from my heart. I had a school friend that died Thursday, had a liver problem, and he was 56. And we were talking about going to his funeral, and they did a graveside service Saturday. And then one of my good friends is part of the Nashville Homeless Underground. He's a social worker. Saturday night, his brother died at 9:50. Then Sunday, I do the room in the inn. I wake up, they tell me about a church shooting. And I said, okay, I hear that, it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. But then finally they tell me the name of the church. And I know all those people that were shot in that church. So I wrote something, it's going to come out in the paper. And one thing about it, write what you want. Tell it like it is. They're going to edit the hell out of you. I'm going to tell you that, especially if you get real. You know what I'm saying? But this is just coming from my heart, and I'm going to read it to you, you know, because it's coming through the room in the end, but it's from the homeless community. Because I've been labeled as the spokesman or whatever. I'm nobody. Anybody that's homeless, they got a story to tell. I'm no better than anyone else. But it goes like this. And I title mine, it says, Peace be still. The Burnett Chapel Church of Christ, we the people without housing that they call homeless, have had the great honor to call your church home during the room and inn season from November the 1st to March the 31st. This tragedy was a complete shock to your room and inn family. We just want to say that our prayers and our love are with you all of the angels at Burnett Church. We know what this church means to us, and when the family members hurt, so are we. So if you need us, call us. We will be there. Pastor Joy Spann, I want you to know this church is a very strong and very spiritual church. The love that the Burnett's show to the least of thee is truly amazing. When I see Jeremiah laying on the couch, it brings life into reality. Some things are a mystery and will remain a mystery. But I know we must continue to love and have strong faith as this church family does, because after all, you bring us in, the least of thee. And when I talk about the least of thee, I realize that I talk about all of us. Now get well, carry on, and see you in November, your family, from the room and inn. Peace. So it just comes from my heart, and I had to write that, you know. And it's basically simple. You just have to be focused. You need to know what you're talking about. I live it. And, you know, when we do the homeless count here, I talk about it, let them know how it's an undercount because they play with the numbers. They don't count the homeless and hotels, couch surfing, or whatever, you know. So it's just bringing the truth out in a radical love fashion. And really, I get a little kick out of it because I get to put the mud all in their face because they say, this is a homeless guy. But I'm telling the truth because I live it, you know. I didn't choose to be homeless. I didn't choose to do this. This is not what I want to do, but this is what God's got me doing. And I step up and I do what he says do now. I'm trying to be obedient. You know, I've tried to take every shortcut there is, and I try to deal with you. I try to let them know and let you guys know homelessness starts right now with babies. With babies. And something's wrong with that. When we can send man to the moon and people to the deepest depths of the ocean, it's no excuse for someone not to be able to have food, clothing, and the right to pursue happiness. So I write about that. And I keep writing about it, and I'll keep writing about it. And when we go to one meeting after another meeting, while they're talking, we're dying. Right now, I'm getting ready to start writing. Lindsay has been visiting a guy named Milton. He was asleep on Music Row. And a young lady pulled up in an SUV, Porsche. He got up and said, lady, will you turn your music down? This is where I sleep, or will you move? She pulled her gun out and shot him twice in the stomach. So this is the year where we start killing ourselves because we do come from families and we're no different than anyone else, and I let that be known too. Just because you have a house and a car does not make you any better because you only have that temporary. The common denominator is we're all going to die, you know. And I try to write, let them know, you know, the last time it's always a tragedy that makes people come together. When it didn't matter what color you were, whether you were LBGT, black, white, or whatever. And that was when 911 happened, and you had a president say, let's pray. We all came together. Now, times have changed. But the people, I believe the good will outweigh the bad completely. August the 21st, there was no fighting, there was no killing. And I don't see things the same way everybody else sees. People were looking up in the air at an eclipse to see darkness. A lot of people are in darkness, but it only lasted for 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So if you didn't know that was God, shame on you. And that's what's carrying me. He's carrying me. I'm surviving. I live in an 8-man tent, but I'm able to write, I'm able to talk, I'm able to do certain things that's constructive. But they say they don't want me in. And they have a word called NIMBYism. They said, not in my backyard, they're taking my front yard too. They're taking it. And it's just not fair. So I try to let people know, and I let them know, I'm not Jesus Christ or anything, but I forgive them because I know they know what they do, because you see it every day. When you have a president that says, I want to make America great again, all right. How can you make America great again when you have an epidemic of homeless people in the United States? In the United States, I'm not talking about Africa, it's in the United States, the richest continent. So, all I can tell you is come from your heart. It's going to take practice. And I'll tell you something else. You might write one and then you might just go somewhere completely else. But just be free. Don't be afraid. And just write. Because that's your freedom of speech. And ask God to guide you as you write.
Thank you so much, Howard. Y'all have this tip for this sheet about writing the letters, doing the next activity that we're going to do. So if y'all will pull out this handout. Howard spoke so eloquently about writing from your heart. Even if you don't know exactly what you're supposed to say, all of your voices matter. All of you have some connection with homelessness. So we're going to take the next 15 minutes in the spirit of Howard and so many others who have raised their voices. If you can see this little picture right here on your handout, that's a group of middle schoolers who came to hang out with us this summer with Open Table. They wrote their council members in this building, and that's what you're about to do. If middle schoolers can write their council members and say, hey, I live in your district, here's some of the things I see going on, I'm really concerned, I wanted to introduce myself to you and tell you what I think, can you please do more? If they can do it, you can do it. A lot of people still writing, and that's totally fine. You can take it with you or keep writing. We're going to go through the last few slides. When you start doing advocacy and that moves into community organizing, there are strategies that we need to be cultivating. So if you look at this photo, I really love it because it shows that the big fish in the world eat the little fish all the time. And the big fish in the world, with the power and with the things, always feel like things are fair. And the little fish are kind of left out and vulnerable and without rights sometimes and without a voice. So organizing is saying the big fish is not going to eat us anymore. We're going to come together and we're going to eat the big fish. Community organizers say there are two forms of power for social change. One is organized money. The other is organized people. Guess what? Like corporations do that can channel into lobbying efforts. So we have to organize each other and ourselves and our spheres of influence, which we'll talk about. But I have seen this work. It can work if you are strategic and mobilize enough people. In the world of community organizing, we use something called escalation of tactics. That means in our world, one of the things that happens a lot is the police will go to a campsite. Maybe you've seen this happen on the news or have had friends this has happened to. Police will go to a campsite, say, hey, you're trespassing, leave tomorrow or you're all arrested. So we hear that from our friends who are like, we're about to lose our place, we're on the waiting list for housing, what are we going to do? And we don't jump right then to organizing a rally and a march and like civil disobedience. There's an escalation process we use. One of the first things we do is we know what's happening. What kind of land are they on? Where else do they have to go? They have pets and they're couples. They can't go to any of the shelters. And then we say, who is the decision maker that could actually affect this change? Is it coming from Central Precinct because they're downtown? Is it coming from the mayor's office like it was when Fort Negley camp got cleared? Where is it coming from and who's the decision maker? And can we go to them and ask them to change their mind? If that doesn't work, we escalate. We mobilize people. We get other people to call those decision makers. And if that's still not working, we heighten our pressure. We get media involved. We tell the story. We try to claim moral high ground. We have our friends in the camps that are being evicted and have nowhere to go literally that they can legally exist. They tell their story on the media, and that's really important because it sways the community and puts pressure on that decision maker to do the right thing. If that doesn't work, guess what? Civil disobedience. We have kept campsites open longer and open indefinitely because of this tactic, mostly indefinitely. Like with Tent City, the old Tent City, in 2008, Public Works tried to bulldoze it. We mobilized, we did all the escalation of tactics. We kept it open until the flood came through in 2010. So that was 2 years we kept Tent City open. This camp right here, we did the same kind of escalation of tactics. We were able to keep this camp open for 9 months until every single person either got into transitional or permanent housing because we organized. We don't just jump to marches and rallies. Most organizers that you see that are out on the streets, they've already tried all the other things. This is a strategy. Does that make sense? Cool. So when your letter doesn't work, what are you going to do? Get louder. Bring more people. Show up stronger. I was going to tell you about the campaign to get the city to help with warming shelters, but Jim already did. So here's some of the lives that we've lost. And that's where we carried a coffin of one of our friends that died on the streets in the cold, Jimmy. We carried a coffin from the library park to the Homelessness Commission meeting to draw attention. We marched that coffin through. So that was a really powerful thing. When you're organizing, our networks reach really far. And one of the models of organizing is to build coalitions around an issue where you're finding other groups with the same self-interest or common ground. So I just want to note the coalition model. We're not going to go in depth, but that is there. I do want to talk about your sphere of influence, and we're going to do a quick activity around this. Do y'all have those note cards, those index cards in your stuff? If not, there's some in the back. But your sphere of influence. So here's you. You're small. We are small people. Here's all of our friends. And here's all of their friends. Okay? All the people. We can grow from this group to a group that would fill up the church sanctuary to a group that would fill up the front area of City Hall. We have to mobilize. So I want y'all to list really quick on your index card, who is in your sphere of influence? Is that people from school, work, a faith community you attend, other organizations that you're close to? Also, who do you know in positions of power? Who are some of the most powerful people you have access to, either through your family or friend group or just by knowing them? So I want you to take a minute and write on your index card who your sphere of influence is, who's in that big circle that you have access to. Churches, okay? But specifically, like shout out your communities. Who are you representing? People Loving Nashville, that's a group. Who else? Vanderbilt, huh? Yes. Yeah. What? Yes, Project Connect. What else?
People in recovery.
What
Yes.
do you say?
People in recovery. Vanderbilt Medical Center. Got some dollars there. Totally. Managed care groups, yes.
music industry.
The music industry. So we've got some people with some celebrity things. They hold a lot of power in the media and in the communities. If they say something, people know their face and they listen. Power is associated with celebrity. Yeah, so we are small in this room, but guess what? Change is relational. We affect change by mobilizing the people and reaching the people we need to change, and that is possible here in Nashville. So when you come to this work of advocacy and organizing, you bring yourself and all of your gifts and talents, but you also bring your networks, and that is really important. So what are some of your next steps? It says, I no longer accepting things I cannot change. I'm changing things I cannot accept. Angela Davis representing. What are the next steps for people in this group? Like, not like jumping, like you're going to introduce some new legislation, but what are the next steps?
Get to know our local lawmakers.
Yes, getting to know your local people. That matters. What else?
Spread awareness.
What?
Spread awareness.
Spread the word. How do we spread awareness?
Through our networks.
Through our networks. How?
Social media.
Social media. How else? Word of mouth. Bring people that can talk about these issues into your group, your organization, your church, whatever. Yeah. Anything else? Volunteer with Open Table. Get involved with PATH. We'll be talking, write an op-ed. We'll be talking about those too. We all have that next step for us, and whatever that next step is for you, just take that step. It could be big or it could be small, but that's how we get where we're going. It's just taking small steps again and again and again. And I want to just say there are so many groups to get involved in. One of the easiest ways to get involved is through starting to follow people on social media and building relationships. So getting coffee, asking a group to come to your group to speak, or your house church, or whatever it is. You can text a couple of these numbers right now if you want to get involved. You can take a screenshot of this page, so you can, when you're back at your place, be like, oh yeah, I'm going to look up those groups again and just follow. That video that we watched earlier, that was on Facebook with PATH. So I'm going to get out of your way for a minute. With Open Table Nashville, we will be posting a lot of these events on Facebook. So if you are following, we post these events so you can see what's going on. We have our big annual fundraiser. This isn't quite an advocacy function, but we're raising funds to support our grassroots nonprofit community work. So these are really fun things. Does anybody else have takeaways from this, like next steps they're going to do, or things that really stood out to them about something you heard or connected with?
Yeah, the comment you made about we need porta-johns.
Porta-johns.
You know,
That's simple.
well, I'm like, is there a place where you can legally have them and I could sponsor one? You know?
Total.
My Lord, you got a question?
Jim is talking in the back.
You got a question?
I'm busy.
He's building a relationship to create change.
What is that? Is there a place where
You want to put John in here?
I think City Hall would be a really great place for a porta-john, so
You want to sponsor?
Well, he actually
War Memorial.
porta-johns, and I'm like, is there a location where they could have one that I could sponsor?
State Capitol. I was just about to make an inappropriate joke.
I get my part, right?
No, but I'm sitting right next, oh, there's
Okay.
one.
Is there one?
Going through your stuff, getting one,
Yeah. Anything else that y'all want to name, a next step or something that stood out from this space?
I'll tell you something that stood out to me. Just you guys being here shows me that you're not afraid to take a chance. And I think you need to give yourself a round of applause just for being able to come here and get involved in this.
Just for being here.
A lot of people are afraid to speak or write or do whatever. For y'all to come here like this, that means a lot to me. and my brothers and sisters down here on the street because the city needs that. So I think
Good job. Howard's shirt says, "I didn't come here to lose," and neither did we. So let's create change together. We are so excited that y'all spent a Tuesday night with us. Thank you so much. We're going to send this out. Please take a minute to fill out the training survey if you can, because we're ending a minute early, so you can do that. We really need feedback because we're trying to create a stronger training program. And if this is a kind of training that you want in your community, let us know. Let us know how we can support you feeling empowered to change the world. So thank you so much.